guys can hear me. Now you can hear me. First matter of business. If you must evacuate this room because of an emergency, there are two exits behind me, one to my left and one to my right. There are also exit doors as you leave the auditorium and you go to your right. This leads to the parking lot on the Rockville Drive. I'd also like to compliment the Plaza principal and staff on the excellent condition of the school, as well as Plaza PTA. Thank you very much for the refreshments, and our custodians as well for the condition of building. Okay. Board of Education accepts the minutes of the Board of Education meeting held on December 12, 2018, as detailed in the Friday mailing. Moved by Mrs. Reed, second by Mrs. I was like, cool. I thought I heard Mrs. Reed speak twice. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any questions? I should have asked that. All right. Board of Education acknowledges receipt of the Treasurer's report for the month of November 2018 as detailed in the Friday mailing. Moved by Mr. O'Hagan, second by Mr. Press. Any questions? All those in favor? Aye. All in favor, motion carries. Now I'd like to turn it over to Dr. Tammy for her report.
Turning it over to Mr. Mignella and Mr. Sacalonga, who are going to do a presentation on the Great Books program in our middle school, Project Lead the Way in our middle school, and the use of instructional technology across the district. These are three initiatives that we started about some 2 years ago, some 3 years ago, and it was really an effort to not only improve and increase the rigor in our classrooms, but really contemporize the way that we instruct in our classroom. So I'm going to turn it over to both of you.
Thank you, Dr. Tammy.
Actually, before you start, Mr. Mignella, we're going to just move that flag over so it can just be our bottom.
Thank you very much, the Board of Education, parents, families. Mr. Sacalonga and I are very pleased to present to you tonight several programs. We're going to start with the Great Books program. The Great Books program is at the middle school, offered to 7th and 8th grade students if it fits their schedule. And the Great Books program is a shared inquiry process. And what that means is students are reading rich text of high rigor, multicultural, and they're engaging in various Socratic seminars, literature circles, small group or large group, and breaking down the literature and engaging in deep, thought-provoking questions to each other. So it's an analysis. This is the second year of the program, so it's growing, and teachers are getting more accustomed to using these strategies. And these strategies will carry through students up into high school, because they're important critical thinking skills. We do have, on the next slide, an opportunity for you to see students using the strategy in the class, because we want to show you the artifacts and evidence of it in progress.
The first time that I try to get your ideas down on paper, right? It doesn't have to be like the best answer. Figure out what you think the answer is at the end. The first question is, why does the speaker avoid the subject and naming those responsible for things that happen during critical minutes? Try to have at least one piece of evidence down. After the 5 minutes, we're going to share it informally. I think it was to represent how during the Holocaust a lot of families were like separated based on age, that people could work in occupations and everything. So I think it could have been that people could try to like imagine the black kids in isolation, but that was not true.
as you see in this video, students are working together, asking each other questions as they're building upon their knowledge, and they're pulling evidence from the text. And again, these are skills they need to be successful in high school and beyond. It's also skills they need for the English Legion, so they're starting at an earlier age now with this program. Thank you. Next program I want to highlight is also at the middle school. It's called Project Lead the Way. Project Lead the Way has a robust program and course offerings. But Project Lead the Way, again, offers opportunities for students to engage in critical thinking and hands-on experiences. And it's also, what's wonderful about it, it connects everything they do to real-world applications. So students are going to be using and studying different skills and concepts and standards while studying real-world applications. We offer 2 courses at the middle school. The first one is design and modeling. Design modeling is it restricts the student schedules in 7th grade, where they will study the design process, the engineering process, and ultimately build something to solve the problem, typically of students' interest. The other offering we have is our medical detectives program, which is a pre-academy course, so it's available to 8th grade students who are interested in taking it. In the medical detectives program, students will study and play the role of real-life medical detectives, and they'll study different things that influence your body, from blood pressure to how medicine affects your body to cholesterol and different diseases and things of that nature, and other things that lead to human breakdown. So on the next slide, we have for you Project Lead the Way in action, and we'll let you figure out which course this one is. Okay? So I also want to add both these situations, the students, nor the teachers, did they know that we were going to go send someone to film them. It was very spontaneous. So we put this together when we came back from recess, believe it or not, but we wanted to catch the students in action in what they really do on a daily basis. So what you're seeing here is really what they do when they are in these classes on a daily basis. The next thing we would like to highlight for you is how we are using instructional technology, and I invite Professor Longer to step up with me for this portion of the presentation. Mr. Professor Longer is our Director of Instructional Technology Services. Last year, we presented to you how instructional technology is used to gain assessment information about how students are progressing. If you remember that, we went through various applications and how teachers use different dashboards and programs so we can see how students are progressing through different units and standards. This year, we want to focus on how students are using and teachers are using instructional programs to be producers. And that's one of our themes this year, for students to demonstrate and be producers of work, not just consumers, but actually showcase their work in different styles and what they're accustomed to. And that's why we're using technology very differently than other school districts are using technology. We're using it to enhance that part of letting students be robust producers and demonstrations of their work and collaborators of their work. So I'm going to let Mr. Fletcher speak a little about these applications.
Good evening. What you're going to see as we go through these glimpses of these various tools is really a quick view of the toolbox that we're enabling our teachers to have access to in the district. This is by all means not a comprehensive list of all the tools we've been using and working with teachers. Our philosophy really is we want to give teachers access to, for lack of a better analogy, like a crayon box of tools. And teachers are selecting the tools that are most appropriate for the instructional activities that they're trying to accomplish with their students. So you're going to see a good example of about 9 different tools right now. Okay? So Flipgrid is a tool that teachers are using to have students respond instead of the traditional way would be have students respond to text. It's a way for teachers to engage students in a non-text-based manner to get students to respond to each other with video, to respond to prompts, to respond to unit summaries, to be, again, in the theme of being creators of content as opposed to consumers of content. This is a tool that helps us to do that. You're going to show part of it?
So here we have a student from the middle school, and writing the answers to how to read them. Using Flipgrid to post the answers to Class Institute as well as the teacher student evaluation.
And just think about how different that is than having students respond in text. So it really, I thought he was talking over me. So it gives you another modality to really get to the students in a way that maybe text may be a challenge for some. Right? Okay.
Here's a elementary school student in 4th grade using Flipgrid to write a book.
You don't like that, huh? You don't like my keyboard? So there's some examples of how some of our teachers are using Flipgrid now. Some of them in the middle school library, they're doing book reviews, and some other classes at the middle school to share about themselves when they, I'm too close to this mic, sorry. Sometimes when in introduction to a unit and you want students to bring their own context or reflection on something, it's a great way to get the teacher started in the unit. It's a great way for students. We've been seeing teachers using a lot with students presenting on what they learned, right? So they're synthesizing what they've learned, and they're presenting it out to other students, and then they're creating content now. It's back to the same theme of being creators of content, not just someone else created it for me. I'm actually creating content that my peers are actually going to be using to learn with, or as a resource. So it's really important. Google Slides is another tool in our toolbox. I'm going to go next slide, okay. Just don't start it yet. Oh, okay, good. And, you know, all of us have seen presentations before. We're actually using Google Slides for this presentation, and the reason we did it was because it really was easy, very easy for us, Anthony, myself, and 3 other team members that put this presentation together. We all worked on it separately at a very busy schedule from different buildings. We met for about 20 minutes just to hash out a couple things. And this is where we're moving towards with our students as well. Where it's not just about doing presentations, right? It's about how do we go about making those presentations. So we're doing it in a collaborative manner, and that's one of the themes we're working on this year and going forward is to spend more discrete time on getting kids to collaborate using the tools. Here's an example of a middle school music class that used it for a project. There's no sound in it. Figures, middle school music project with no sound. Yeah, he's going to show you a couple examples of presentations. This is this is elementary school, 5th grade. Yeah. And this is another tool in the toolbox. We've experimented with augmented reality. And so what students did in this project was they were, instead of doing a traditional, I'm going to research something and present on it, they actually constructed a virtual representation of that presentation, and using phones that we cobbled together and had, they actually can put the phone to their eyes and walk around the room and look at these cubes, and each one of the cubes had different, for lack of a better word, like links to them, and they would see the project in 3D, and they would rotate the cube around and see different elements of the project as the cube is rotating around. So, and then they did this in a collaborative team as well. So you can see the students actually constructing what each side of the cube looked like in those screenshots. Adobe Spark is another tool that's being used this year, and it's a free product by Adobe. Allows students to very rapidly and very easily to make graphics, websites, flyers, and it's just, for lack of a better word, it's really simple to use and very powerful. Yeah, some examples. And I just want to focus on one thing. We have 2 instructional technology specialists, one supporting middle school, high school, one at the elementary level. And none of these tools are prescriptive, so we don't have them go into any class and say, I'm going to show you how to use Adobe Spark. What they do is they sit down with teachers and they find out what projects they're working on, and then try and find and identify the most appropriate tool to help them achieve the instructional outcomes they want to achieve. And so sometimes some teachers use Adobe Spark. So other teachers in the same grade, that doesn't work for them. So they have to be very versatile, and they have to be very skilled in applying the right tools. So I just want to highlight that. Ken,
I just want to add to that, because that speaks to our philosophy of instructional technology. Our philosophy is not that every 3rd grade classroom gets a smart board, or every 5th grade classroom gets something else. Our philosophy is all about instruction. So what are we trying to do instructionally, and what tools do we need to accomplish that? And that's why you'll find differences between and among classes and classrooms and buildings. It's not that any one has less than anyone else. The opportunities are the same for everybody. But if I am a teacher who's working on a particular skill, then there's software that lends itself to that skill better than others. And so we're not trying to fit a square peg into a round circle. It's probably the other way around, right? It's a round circle and a square peg. we really are looking at what is it that we are trying to accomplish instructionally, and what are the tools that are going to help us do that. So where you see other places saying we're going one-to-one, we're getting a smartboard for every classroom, we're redesigning, the furniture in every kindergarten class. When you see formulaic stamp outs of that kind of stuff, people are not talking about instruction when they do that. They are not individualizing what they're trying to accomplish instructionally in the classroom. They're really just check-off boxes. That's the opposite of what we're trying to do. And that's why this is a really small sample of what we're using in our classrooms. And as a parent, you may not see Adobe Spark being used in your class, but you might see 10 other things being used in your classroom. So it may not be the same, but it is equal.
Thank you. Storyboard, that is, the title really speaks for itself. It's a program that lets students storyboard ideas real rapidly and quickly, where it can be used, in some cases, our teachers using it prior to the writing process, or actually prior to actually producing some kind of content, whether it be video with some other products that we're using. They can make quick cartoon segments of it, but it's an organizational tool for writing, for production of video, for presentations, and we're getting a lot of resonance with it. Think about how many kids will be excited about writing about, in many instances, a summary of a story they're reading Fahrenheit 451. But you ask me to make a graphic cartoon about it, you're getting the same thinking and the writing about it, but in a way that for them is fun. So it's just another way to engage those students, right? So WeVideo, actually, we started the pilot of that project here in Plaza, and it started off really small as part of a grant-funded project that we started with, and what we found is that teachers really liked it, and the students really liked it. And in essence, what it is an easy way to to green screen and capture video and make presentations in a way, again, focus on creating content, right? That we can focus on the content as opposed to the technical stuff that needs to usually bog us down with creating this kind of stuff. Because typically, whenever you're dealing with video and production, especially when it comes to backgrounds and things like that, the technical stuff usually gets in the way. So you really got to focus on tools that get out of the way and just make it about the instruction. This is a really good example of something that does that. Yeah. He's helping us district-wide with supporting the creation of video in many aspects. noticed there. They were actually reading over teleprompters. I mean, they were learning some pretty sophisticated skills for elementary level. And we noticed after that we needed to get a better microphone, so we did that. Wasn't my keyboard, was it? Yeah. Padlet is another tool. It's an interesting tool that, in this case, you can almost say it's like an interactive whiteboard that you can organize. Teachers use it a lot of times. They'll put up a question and they'll have students go up and they all go in their own little space and they put up their answers and you can organize their thinking and group it together. It's a good place for reflection, for polling, for understanding. Teachers have been finding lots of innovative ways that I never would have thought of to use it. And that's when you know a tool really has an impact. And there's a whole suite of tools out there that allow for teachers to create content and to then have it be either delivered at home where students go through at their own pace, and it could be video and questions and review stuff and things like that. But again, our focus is really on the students creating the content, and while there's great instructional materials out there and various tools, what we found is that our students like to create content for their peers. So instead of a teacher creating a lesson on, for example, what's this one on, I don't know which one's like, it doesn't really matter, but on what? On emojis. The students actually did research on, they all selected a topic that was interest and near and dear to them. In this case, this one student wanted to present to their peers on what emojis were, the history of them, how they got to be where they are today, and made a Neopod on it. And not only was it about information, but it was also about, they questioned their peers at the end, so they actually could poll for understanding to make sure that their fellow students understood their presentation and actually learned the content that they presented. Yeah, pretty deep stuff, emojis. Okay. And this is another, again, sometimes you'll see tools that are similar in their nature, because, again, going back to what we were saying before, teachers tend to gravitate toward the tools that they feel are most appropriate for what they're trying to accomplish instructionally. So Bunchy is another presentation tool, but it's really easy for teachers and students to create content by dragging and dropping, and putting buttons on it, and you can put graphics, all kinds of stuff, and this is a product that's been very well received.
This is our summary of instructional tools used to teachers. As Aaron mentioned, there are several others. Each has a whole other components to it, but we want to highlight these because they're probably the most frequently used ones at this current time. And as Darren noted, I like to piggyback off that. A lot of this would not be possible without our chief instructional technology specialist, Ed Murray for the secondary and Michelle Curry for the elementary. They do a fantastic job working with teachers and having them be comfortable, but also learning how to appropriately use technology for students to become producers and not just to replace, other things that we take place in the classroom. So we're really lucky to have them part of the team, and Darren does a fantastic job working with them and getting them through these various initiatives. Questions?
Thank you both for this presentation. I was more into hearing more about all these great projects happening at the middle school. I actually just have one question. It's more about understanding how these different options rolled out to the teachers. Like, because there's so many, how does that part happen?
So I'll give you an example at the middle school. Through teaming, it's a perfect avenue for Ed Murray to work with teachers. He will cycle in and push in through the team meetings, and he'll introduce different apps that teachers might find interesting, and then they'll work with him and narrow it down, saying, this is my project, these are my instructional goals, my objectives, which program would best suit those needs. He'll walk them through them, he'll demo it for them during the team meetings, and then he provides PD for them. He might push into the classroom with them while they're doing it. He might not, depending on that one-to-one coaching that they may need. But it's through that team meeting, which is great. Seamlessly has that. The high school, for instance, does not have team meetings, so he will push into department meetings to do the similar type of work. Lunch and learns is what we're using at the high school as well, where teachers can bring their lunch, sit down with him, and they'll talk about these different aspects. And that's going to be a very strong vehicle as well. And this year, we did roll out a ninth grade teaming approach, and he's meeting with those ninth grade teams as well to do the same type of work. At the elementary schools, Ms. Curry is pushing through. She has a schedule. She sends out a calendar invite to teachers. They book her. She does lunch and learns in elementary schools as well, but they'll book her, and she's in high demand. So her time slots fill up very quickly, and they collaborate online about what they might want to do, and then she'll bring in a menu of options and coach them through how to use them.
Anybody else have questions?
I just had one. In the Great Books program, you talk about multicultural reading selections. How do you, who decides or who picks the selections?
So the Great Books Foundation has been around, Darren and I were just talking about this before, it's been around quite some time.
Yes.
It's a wonderful foundation, and they have different series of texts that we purchased. So the middle school one that we have purchased is the round table discussions, and they appropriately bring in different titles. Then the teachers work with kids, and they have different titles that they work with through the course of the year. I don't remember the titles off the top of my head that they're using currently. I know there's about 8 to 10 different titles that they're going through this year. So they're reading a robust number of texts, which is important too.
So the teachers themselves, as they are selecting from the offerings by Great Books.
Yes. We have purchased a robust selection there at library, but the library is vast. So they're not going to get through every single text that we have.
Yeah.
So the class only meets every other day. So it's not 180 days a year, it's 90 days for the year. So.
Okay, thank you.
So just want to let you know, I have a 7th grader who's taking the Great Books class, and she absolutely loves it. Lisa is usually really quiet. Oh yeah, she's usually quiet. She's very observant, but she comes home and she's talking about the things that are happening in the grade six class. So I think that's a good thing, because especially because middle schoolers don't tend to discuss. Even though, Lisa loves to read, but she usually kind of keeps those kinds of things to herself. One of the questions I had was, I love all the different projects and things. I'm wondering if there's any way we can maybe upload some of those to our website, and so like people could see examples of our student work. Or, I mean, I don't know. I know that there are, things where some kids can't go on, or et cetera, but I just,
So one of the kind of an interesting question for today, we received the template for our new website that we're rolling out. We're now in the process of uploading the content for that, and inside that content, there's a lot of one of the biggest changes is the opportunity for lots of video. So we will have an opportunity to post student video and student work, and there's actually a section that highlights student work. One of the things that we are working though, and will hopefully be able to accomplish is a separation of what the outside world can see and what the inside world can see. But the new design, this will once again set us apart from everybody else. The new design has lots of opportunity for video and student work.
and I also just want to compliment Ed Murray in public. He did a workshop at the middle school. Mrs. Director and I were there, on the different things that for parents in terms of internet safety, et cetera. He's fabulous. I mean, he does like the total deep dive, and you're like, huh. So just, I mean, seeing it firsthand, not having to work with him, but seeing what he does, I think he's a great guy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you both.
Thank you, guys.
Okay. You have more questions?
Really? Oh, is it on too?
So the only thing, I mean, it's hard to believe it's January already and that the holidays have come and gone. I'm not sure if it's going fast or going slow, but I know when I turn around and it's April and I can't believe the year is gone. We right before the holidays, hosted Cynthia Germanata, who is Lady Gaga's mother. It was, speak up. It was an awesome experience, was it not? She came to the high school, so all of our schools worked together to collect toys. We collected over 400 toys that were donated to Bethany House in Roosevelt. And Cynthia came to the high school. What was interesting was she came to the high school and she was standing outside the auditorium, and she said, what is that? And she opened up the auditorium doors because our kids were singing in the auditorium, and she completely burst into the auditorium. She talked to our kids, right? And do you want to say something? Because you're welcome to take over from me. I'm happy. Do you want to say something? What was so really nice about it was afterwards, our kids came and stuffed the bus, and she was treated by the voices of our young people, and at some point she was so overcome with emotion that she just started crying because, I mean, our kids, are amazing, their voices are amazing, but she was so overwhelmed by the generosity of our community and our kids, by the warmth that our kids exuded to her, that it just flowed back to them. So it was really just a lovely event, and I also will publicly thank Ben Elias from the high school and Russ Randazzo, who drove the bus with all the toys to Bethany House unloaded the entire bus of toys to Bethany's house, just the two, the two of them alone. And it was one of those moments where I think they were on the bus and they said, wait a minute, nobody said we had to load it and unload it, and, but, as usual, without hesitation, did that. So, it was, I think it was heartwarming because it was just such a generous, and what I think was more amazing than anything is that was just one of the community-minded things that our kids did. That was one thing of over 400 toys, but I know that toys were donated and collected in every one of the elementary schools, in the middle school. Just, there was just an outpouring of, warmth and love from our community. And Cynthia Germanata just kind of felt it from our kids and just gave it right back. So it was really, it was pretty touching. Very, very nice.
Thank you. Comments from the board. We will start this way.
So, basketball is back in effect. I actually attended one of the girls' basketball games during the winter tournament that they had at the high school in memory, and it's been renamed in memory of one of the students. I can't remember her name, last name is Sandra, who passed away. And she played on the basketball team. Her parents were in the audience, and the game was recorded by FiOS. So there was, the boys' game was recorded as well as the girls', and I was a little offended that the news day kind of came out with a statement of the girls are back, like we ever left. We are two-time state champions, and I mean, I know we lost a lot of a lot of players, but we have great coaches. The girls who are on the team are amazing. So I look forward to another great year. So, and they won their game, of course. It was amazing. So it's good to be there. And the guys did a great job too. So that's all I have.
I would just like to say Happy New Year to everybody. I hope that everyone had a wonderful break. And thank you very much to Darren and Anthony for their presentation. It's always wonderful to see the different technology and how it's being implemented in our district. It's very exciting. So thank you.
Mr. Press?
Happy New Year, everyone. I guess I can go back over to the holiday concert because that was after our last meeting. So, I was at the holiday concert, the second one at the high school, which was incredible. And it's always my favorite part of that is that Hallelujah chorus when the chorus sings with the orchestra and then the alumni come back and get up there and sing. And it was, I guess, it was especially great for me because, my daughter at graduation wasn't there, but just I knew a lot of the kids that had come back. And to see them go up there and greeting their friends and everything, it's just a great performance. And that's it. The other part tomorrow is the Martin Luther King Jr. celebration, and that is also another one of my favorite events. I'm looking forward to the Step Team there performing, right? Do we know? Step Team, they usually perform at the MLK, so I'm hoping they are there. Yeah. Well, when they let you perform, maybe they'll let me.
That's good news.
That's all right.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mrs. O'Hagan?
Ditto about the concert. It was really terrific. In addition, I attended, along with, I think, most of my colleagues, the school's career breakfast. And it's really a signature program of Baldwin. And to hear students talk about their experiences and what they get out of some of these programs where they're able to shadow professionals or where they go to programs hosted at local colleges and universities. Just such a wonderful opportunity, and the kids themselves speak about how much they get out of it. So that was terrific. And I attended a REFIT meeting. REFIT is an organization we belong to that advocates for communities like ourselves that have very little commercial tax base, so that our homeowners bear a disproportionate share of the cost of the schools. And our guest speaker was Senator John Brooks. And I normally wouldn't plug a politician necessarily, but Senator Brooks started out his elective office career as a school board member, and he has a particular sensitivity and a very deep understanding of the concerns of school districts. So it was very interesting to hear what he had to say, and he is, I think, making a great effort to have an impact on the New York State Senate. So that was it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. On that note, we'll move on to our only comment and question period. You guys hear me okay? Okay, good. So at this time, this is our only period where we we take questions and comments. You can come up and ask those questions. You'll be given 3 minutes to do so. We ask that your questions be directed to me with respect. We will not and cannot discuss any personnel matters or matters relating to any individual. I don't think I forgot anything else, right? Oh, yes, please state your name and address as well when you do come up and ask your questions. Don't run. Ah, any questions? Wow. Wow. Latte. Okay. On that note. Okay. Going twice? Yes, I'll tune it out. Let's go. Oh, that just means everything is going swell. Thank you. Okay, so on that note, we'll move on. Board of Education approves the Personnel Action Report for January 9th, 2019, as detailed in the Friday mailing as addended. Moved by Mrs. Reed, second by Mrs. Poole. Due to the fact that this is personnel related, we cannot discuss this in public. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Special services. The Board of Education approves the recommendations for services of the Committee on Special Education, sub-CSD 504 Committee, and Committee on Preschool Special Education in October, November, and December 2018, as detailed in the Friday mailing. Moved by Mrs. O'Hagan, second by Mr. Press. Again, due to the nature of this topic, we will not be able to discuss this in public. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Board of Education approves the home tutoring and special education service report as detailed in the Friday mailing. Moved by Mrs. Reed, second by Mr. Press. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Business items. Make sure I have this on your side. Okay, good. Okay. Board of Education approves the grant disbursement agreement with Dormitory Authority of the State of New York and the Baldwin UFSD for a $100,000 grant to purchase and install an electronic sign at the Grand Avenue entrance to Baldwin High School to inform the community of meetings, events, and public safety information as detailed in the Friday mailing with hand claps. Everyone. Moved by Mrs. Reed, second by Mr. Press. Any questions?
The shepherd flag.
Yes, before, I just want to get to that point, approve and we can start clapping. Yes, Mrs. Reed.
So the question I have is this, this grant that is being approved, is the full $100,000 just the state, or is this a combination of what we apply for at Nassau, the Nassau County level and the state level?
This one is the Nassau County level. Oh, this is the state.
So this is the state.
It has already been.
And that.
So for there's gonna be, so you just said that there's about a total of 180,000. Okay, that's
Yeah,
what
so we're gonna,
And once you guys approve that, then it sort of goes to the attorneys, it gets signed off, it goes in a new packet, it goes back up to the state, and then you get the final approval, and finally it comes to fruition.
no. Well,
Awesome.
maybe.
Actually, so do you have a sense of timeline in this one?
Oh,
This is, we got it on the agenda of what, a year, 2 years, it's been?
Well, that's why I'm.
Yeah, I hear you.
well, the bets that are running is, am I gonna be a grandmother or?
I was just gonna
Oh, gosh.
How gray will you be? How gray will I be? Right now.
No, we're close to the finish line.
Yeah, we're in a good place. The fact that it's on this agenda makes it great. So, with that being said, oh, you had a question, Sue?
So just to clarify, the first part, the 80, that's, we have it. We have
We
possession
don't
of that.
actually have it, we have approval for it.
The funds are not actually
So
physically
once
there,
it's
but the
expended, we
approval.
apply for reimbursement, but we're still in the process of getting approval. We couldn't spend the 80 until we had approval for the 100.
Right.
But now that we have we will approve the 100, you can actually start.
You approve the 100, it goes up one more time up to the state, it gets approved, and then you can start spending the 180.
So in reality, going back up to the state, do you think that means another year? Because this is 3 years. I have just gotten on the
Right.
board.
I don't think so. We're told that this is fairly expedited.
We're in a good place.
Yeah.
So we don't need to like,
Good place, good
do
place.
pitchforks or anything like that. It's just,
After the start.
I'm just getting ready for a letter writing campaign, buses and all that fun stuff.
Yeah,
Okay.
we're in a good place. All those in favor? Hearing no opposition, motion carries. Thank you. So this is good news. Very, very good news. Yeah. No thanks yet? Okay, no thank you letter yet. Yes. The Board of Education accepts with thanks a donation in the amount of $2,000 from the New Jersey Alliance for Social, Emotional, and Character Development to be used to refine the character education programs in Plaza and Brookside schools as detailed in the Friday mailing. Moved by Mrs. Reed, second by Mrs. O'Hagan. All those in favor, any questions? No. Thank you very much. All those in favor? All right. Any opposed? No. Motion carries. The Board of Education accepts with thanks a donation in the amount of $423 from the Italian American Committee on Education to subsidize the cost of 9 students who will be taking the Italian AP exam this year, as detailed in the Friday mailing. Moved by Mr. Press, second by Mrs. O'Hagan. Any questions? Thank you. Grazie. Grazie. All those in favor? Aye. All right, motion carries. Board of Education approves the budget transfers over $10,000 from November 1, 2018. No, not yet. Through November 30, 2018, as detailed in the Friday mailing. Moved by Mr. Press. I love my team. Second by Mrs. Reed. Any questions? All right, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, motion carries. What's interesting is that Mrs. O'Hagan asked if we were having a consent agenda. That was a moment. Okay. As board president, I am calling for consideration of the business items in tonight's agenda as consent items. This includes business items 5 through 12, business agreements, special services contracts, and obsolete items. Are there any items members would care to withdraw from consideration under the consent agenda for further discussion and a separate vote? Sure, which item is that?
Number 5?
Okay, so then you want to just do 6 through 12 and then we talk about 5? That's how we do.
No, just ask the question.
Just ask a question?
Okay. It's a simple question. Why doesn't Ingram Smith do this?
Because they represent the other districts also, so they can't represent either.
Thank you.
Okay. You're good with that? Okay, so do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda, including business items 5 through 12? Yes. Motion, I'm sorry? Oh, do I have a motion, Mrs. O'Hagan, to approve? Moved by Mrs. O'Hagan. Second by Mr. Press. What do you guys, what's going on? All those in favor? Happy New Year. Any opposed? Motion carries. Do I have a motion to approve items 5 through 12? Moved by Mrs. Reed, second by Mrs. Cruz. All those in favor? Aye. All right, motion carries. Okay. All right, so 5 through 12. The Board of Education approves the updated use of facilities report for July 2018 through June 2019 as detailed in the Friday mailing. Moved by Mr. Press, second by Mrs. O'Hagan. Any questions? All right, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, motion carries. Policies. The Board of Education has a first reading of the following policy as detailed in the Friday mailing. Policy 0115, student harassment and bullying prevention and intervention. Policy 4420, class size. The Board of Education has a second reading, adopts the following policies as detailed in the Friday mailing. Policy 8410, student transportation services, and policy 8411, school bus scheduling and routing. We don't, oh, that's true, we are.
Yeah, we need the
Second, thank you, Mrs. Reed. So moved by Mrs. Reed, second by Mr. Press. Any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, motion carries. Let's see.
And the others will be brought back for second reading, I think.
Yes. So I will just condense the resolution here. Indemnification, be it resolved that the Board of Education, upon the recommendation of Superintendent Schools, approves the following. Whereas in accordance with Education Laws S3811 and/or Public Officers Laws S18, Michelle Gallo, Assistant Superintendent for Human Resources, has requested indemnification in an action bearing index number 18CZ6653 SJFARL. I need to stop there. Okay. Do I have a motion? I give you a motion. Moved by Mrs. Reed, second by Mrs. O'Hagan. We cannot discuss this in public as well. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries. Reporting requirements for elected or appointed officials. The Board of Education approves the resolution for the reporting requirements for elected or appointed officials as detailed in the Friday mailing. Moved by Mr. Press, second by Mrs. Cool. Any questions?
I assume this mirrors law, as law. So it's just really that we have it on the book.
Correct.
For us, yeah.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Other, before I go into the dates, anything else? Okay. So tomorrow we have our Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. celebration taking place at the high school tomorrow at 7:30. Also BCA, in conjunction with the town of Hempstead, will have the Baldwin Revitalization Project update, and this is at a new location. It will be taking place at the middle school, not the high school. That's tomorrow as well at 7:30. So I guess you can pop into both and make it work. Oh no, that's right. And I just went back there, one middle school, high school. Too many things going on at the high school.
Right.
Okay. So yeah, that's unfortunate. Both going on at the same time, two different locations. Okay, it is what it is. Community Coalition of Baldwin, that meeting will be taking place on the 15th at 7 p.m. at the district office. Our school is closed Monday the 21st for Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday. We will have a community input meeting and PTA reflections reception Wednesday, January 23rd, 8 p.m. at the middle school. The Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. poster contest reception will be taking place on Thursday, January 24th, 3:45 p.m. in the district office in the gymnasium. National History Day will also be on Thursday the 24th at 7 o'clock in the middle school. There'll be a talent show at the high school at 7 o'clock on Thursday the 31st. The Baldwin Booster Club, is that a meeting? This says Baldwin Booster Club. I guess the meeting is Thursday, January 31st at the high school, 7:30. The PTSA Founders Day, middle school and high school Founders Day is February 5th. Tuesday, February 5th at 7 p.m. And Plaza's Founders Day is February 12th, right, which we all received invitations for today. And that is at what time? We didn't open our envelopes. 7 p.m. So thank you. And our Board of Education budget work session meeting is Wednesday, February 6th, 7 p.m. in the district office, and our board meeting is at 8 p.m. following in the district office. That being said, do I have a motion to end the meeting? at 9:10. Moved by Mr. Press, second by Mrs. Reed. And all those in favor? Aye. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you, guys. Yeah. Wow, I gotta.